Hi guys, we are here again. Welcome to episode two. And first things first, I need us to create a global light because we are using the universal render pipeline like we did with our project settings. Uh, One, and then so we need to create a light, and two, we also need to work on our player, our new input system, and first things first. So let's change the behavior of our input system, and we want it to invoke Unity events. We want it to invoke Unity events. Don't make a mistake with that. Choose invoke Unity events, and then next we go to our hierarchy, and then we try and create. So I want to create a light. So I click on light, global light 2D. Once I click global light 2D, then I move it above my screen to be able to give my scene a better lighting. And then after this, we'll be creating our player controller script. So I'll be creating scripts for my player, and I'll be giving it player controller 2D and character controller 2D. So I can go to my player and then scroll down and add components. So I type new script, and then I give it a name. Let's say character controller 2D. And I also need to create my player controller 2D script. I can create it here, and I can also come here in the folder script and just right click and say create script, and I name it player controller 2D. And once that is created, I can just drag it and drop it on my player. So I click on my player, I can lock the inspector, scroll down, drag the player controller script and add it. So I have the player controller script here. So I think I need to look for my character controller script and move it into my scripts folder. Yeah, that is done. So one thing you can use any editor for your text or for your script to type in your code, but I use Visual Studio mostly. So once I double click the character controller script, it just opens Visual Studio for me. So immediately we have Visual Studio here. Now, first things first is we need to understand what are the things that we want to do. What does our controller need? And we are creating a character controller. First things first, our controller needs a move amount. It needs to move. It needs movement. It needs rigid body. We need to call in the rigid body function. We need to also call in the collider function, and then we need to know the position of our player, where the player is, the current position and the last position. So I'm going to be creating some variables now. So private move amount, and now I'm going to be using the vector 2 because we are doing 2D. But if we are using just vector or vector 3, then we'll be talking about 3D, but we are working with 2D here. So I say private vector 2D or private vector 2. Move amount. Sometimes when I work with private, I can use an underscore here, and sometimes I don't do that, but this just allows me to be able to know that I'm working with a private variable. So let's just use that. I see move amount, and Okay, you know what? I don't want to use that. I think it's going to complicate things. So move amount, private vector 2, move amount, private vector 2. I need to know the position like I mentioned. That's the current position and the last position. I also need to get the last position. And like I said, we need to call up the rigid body because we will be needing it in our code, and we also need to call up the collider. And remember, we use the capsule collider. So I say private rigid body to the we use Unity autocomplete here. Sometimes I do that. Private rigid body 2D, and I call it rigid body. And I think there's another function called rigid body. So let me change this. Underscore rigid body. Then for the capsule collider also, private capsule collider 2D, and I can say underscore capsule collider. So we've done that, and we need to call this in the start function. So rigid body, we need to get the component in the start function. So underscore rigid body is equals to the game object dot game component of the rigid body. That's rigid body, the component of this game object, which is the player. Game object dot get component of rigid body 2D. And then also the capsule collider, I need to also the capsule collider, I need to get component of the capsule collider. So I say rigid body game object dot get component rigid body 2D. Yeah. Underscore capsule collider is equals to game object get component of capsule collider 2D. made a mistake. The parentheses was supposed to be after the brackets. So I have this now, and then next thing we need to do is we are not going to be using this update function because we don't want a continuous update. We just want like a fixed update, so we'll be using a fixed update function. So let's just change this to fixed update, and we can as well just type it again, but just easier and faster. So we need to get the last position, the first position, and we need to get the last position, the current position, the rigid body, and then the amount of movement, which is how far the character is moving. So I need to say last position is equals to the rigid body dot position. I said last position is equals to, made a mistake here. Then our current position also is equals to last position plus the move amount. Then also I need to get the rigid body. So I say rigid body dot move position. We want, let's say, okay, rigid body dot move position. Which is the current position. Lastly, we say the move amount is equals to the vector 2.0. So here we're having some issues with our vector 2 because it's probably not, it's giving us some errors, but definitely let me see if there's a quick fix for that. Okay, is there anything like private? I think yeah, it's private vector too. So why is it now? Just ignore this, please. Just ignore this. Ignore this. So now next thing we need to do is we need to work on our player controller. And before we do that, I need to indicate the vector 2 movement. So I need to create a function for the move function, which I'm going to call later on. So I say public void move. I think that's probably what is wrong with this vector2. I need to call the vector2 also in the move function. Say vector2 and my movement. So definitely my move amount is going to be movement. It's going to be this vector2 movement. So yeah, move amount is equals to the movement plus or equals to. Okay, so next we move on to our player controller script. I double click it and then we move on to player controller script. So our player controller script, and remember, like I mentioned earlier, we need to for player controller we use it to call input functions for the player, and for the character controller script we use it to control the player and say and talk about the mechanics, whatever things effects we need to give to the player, whatever mechanics we need to give to our player. We use the character controller to the script for that. So first and foremost, we need to add a statement here saying using Unity engine dot input system, because we are using the new input system. Then we need to create some variables that we would need for our player properties. So we're going to be needing our walk speed, we're going to be needing gravity, we're also going to be needing our input, which is a vector2. We're also going to be needing our move direction, and then we also have to call our character controller script. We have to make reference to it here in this script. So let me create a public float. Walk speed. I'll say 10. 10F, don't forget. Then gravity also, I'll say public float gravity. I'll give it 20. I think 20 is fine. 20 is fine for my gravity. I need to create the input, so I say private vector2 the input. Also the move direction. And don't forget, I said we have to make reference to the character controller script. So I say private character controller 2D is the character controller. Yes, so I can call this function of character controller in my script, and it's going to be referring to my character controller to this script automatically. So which is why we needed to create a variable for character controller, a reference for it, like we said, or a reference for it, like we said. So in my start function, I'm going to call up my character controller script. Character controller is equals to game object dot get component of the character controller, Unity helps me a lot with this autocorrect. I say game object get component of the character controller to the, I'm calling that function so that it can refer to my script whenever the game starts. And then here we're going to be using the update function because we want to regularly update our input. So I say the move direction and the input, so on horizontal. So if I say move direction Y, it will be vertical, but if I say move direction X, it's going to be horizontal. So let's say move direction dot X is going to be equals to input of X which is also equals to our move speed also. No, not move speed. I think it's walk speed. We use walk speed. There's a mistake with my walk speed. I spelled it wrongly. So yeah, I have it. Move direction X equals to walk speed. So from here we are making the player to move, and then next thing we need to do is the move direction Y. We need to use that for the gravity, which is if the player is falling or if the player is jumping. So I say move direction Y is minus equals to gravity times, we use time here, so we say time multiplied by delta time, so or time dot delta time. That's how we use time here. So we say move direction Y dot Y is minus or equals to gravity times gravity multiplied by time dot delta time. So we have time dot delta time, and also we also need to call the move function from the character controller. So we can say character controller dot the move function. You remember we are referencing the character controller with this namespace. So I say character controller dot the move function in our character controller. This is move function. Where is it? Okay, this is move function. Yeah. So dot move function I say move direction X multiplied by time dot delta time. Or okay, I think it's move direction. We have a function called move direction. Okay, so move direction multiply by time dot delta time. We're almost done here. So we need to create one more. We need to create one more function, which is for our input system. So on movement, we need to use our callback action for our input. So this is what is going to control the new input system. So we say public void on movement. When we are moving, we need to call the function on the input system what we want to the button we want to press, or what we want to control the player. Say input action dot callback context, and which is context. Then we say input is equals to context dot read the value of vector 2. Let's check our code. If it doesn't have any error, then we can now proceed to checking the input system and making the character move. Yay! So we have no errors here. Nice. So always save. Let's press play. Automatically it's not supposed to work, but let's see. So that's the gravity that we added for the player earlier, which was gravity, I said 20. And press play again. Wow. So there's still a problem with the collision. I'm going to work on that. So when we press play, let's see. Yes. If I press WASD, our movement is not going to move. So we need to use our input system. We need to plug it into our player. So let me show you how that works. So I stop, and then I click on my player. I go to my input system. So I have already added my input system here. Invoke events, which is invoke unity events, and I need to click on the event, and then I need to click on player, and then I need to, you see, when we are talking about the move callback, so the callback context where we called here in the script here, this, so for on movement, so I need to invoke this event here. So when I add, I just drag my player onto this, and then I pick a function from PlayerController. Remember, it's the PlayerController, not the character controller function. And we put the on movement. So we have the on movement now, and let's play and let's see what is happening. So when I press play, the player is moving forward. So it's defying gravity. It's just supposed to fall directly and not move because I didn't press any key or any button to move the player. And if I try to press the button, it's not moving. So first and foremost, I have to test if my movement is even working at all. So I need to comment out the gravity. Let's go to my script, the player controller script. Let's look for the gravity. Okay, this is gravity here. Let me comment it out. I use the double slash. So I commented out the gravity. Let me check if my player works. Press play. Yeah, so it's moving. Fine. So what I need to do now is it's just moving on its own, which is wrong. So I need to check here and check what is wrong with the walk speed. So automatically it's just walking. So I need to say move direction multiply equals to the walk speed. So let's try this again. Yes, so it's not moving now. I press left, right, okay, right, left, left. That's A and S, A and D. I'm pressing A and D and it's moving. Yes, so you see we have a player moving now. Then let me pull back my gravity and see if my player acts normal. So I'm going to press play. Wow, the player is falling off. Okay, there's something we've not done. So I need to go and check. I need to check my player and check the rigid body. So I need to check the constraints. Okay, so we need to freeze this rotation Z. We don't want it to flip. So freeze rotation Z. And let me press play again. Yeah. So it's not flipping. Yeah. Then one other thing, my player is not moving. So it's because my player does not know that it's on a collision or on a platform or on the ground. So I need to be able to make sure that my player knows that he or she is on the ground and should be able to move at any point when he or she is on the ground. So that will be what we'll be talking about in the next episode. Thank you for this. See you in the next class.